is up, everyone? This I am Caleb, also known as NFL Caleb 22. This is Derek. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you, man?
I'm doing good. This is betting the NFL, week 16. We on week 16, right? Yeah, we are. Um, but yeah, we're going to recap last week. We're going to get into our picks this week. But first, I always want to start with our disclaimer. You don't have to go with our picks. We're just trying to give you advice on what to pick, what not to pick. So don't hold us responsible if you lose so much money because we're just trying to help. Okay.
Yeah,
So
the way I've always looked at it, anybody that's out there doing this, you're gathering information, regardless of where you go, where you look. You're gathering information and making an opinion based off that information. It doesn't matter, to a certain degree, yeah, it matters where that information came from, but it could be as something as simple as you heard three Joe Schmoes say the same thing, and that made you go, "Hey, I might want to think about this." Or you might have heard somebody more professional give his opinion or something, and that gave you a certain angle or outlook on a matchup or situation.
yeah, yeah. All right, man. Last week we had again another week of favorites hitting, which that wasn't the case for most of the year. It's just been recently that the favorites all of a sudden, I guess the odds makers just the Lions, and now all of a sudden favorites are hitting this week and last week. Um, but yeah, they went. Let me see here. They went 10-6 against the spread, and now they're about 108 and 114-2 overall. Which means they're making a comeback, which means you know you're out there, pick heavy favorites. Also, home teams, it went about even against the spread, 8-8. They've been, but overall they've been losing more than they've been hitting. Want to go with more away teams, and then the over and unders. The under has been hitting all year, and that was again the case this week. 6-10. The overs went. The unders hit a lot more than the overs did. But the biggest upset of the week we got from Lions plus 13, plus 550 on the money line versus the Cardinals. And I don't think anybody expected it. Obviously, I think heavy money was put on the Cardinals. I think most of the public Cardinals, probably the sharp money was going towards the Lions. But what do you think about this game?
I mean, of course, definitely nobody saw the outright upset coming. I did think it was shocking when I saw highlights during the early games that they were up by multiple scores. I believe it went into halftime, something around 17-6, somewhere in that range. Uh, it was rather shocking. Um, like you said, I'm sure plenty of folks, probably had money on the Cardinals. I wouldn't be shocked if that line opened somewhere around 10 or 11 and got pushed up closer to that 13.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
think I had him 12. I think.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
but
but I
but even
totally whiffed on
still,
that one. That was a
y-
terrible pick.
yeah. See, even at 12, there was still enough money coming in on them to push them in another point. So, uh, that's one of those things where I definitely like if I'm talking to someone, you know, I'm not gonna put big money, or on a heavy favorite. If you're talking like minus 200, minus 300, minus 400, yeah, no, that's too much of a risk because as we
Yeah,
see week to week, nobody knows what's gonna happen. We all got our best guess that we roll out there. Sometimes we're on the
yeah,
money, sometimes you just on the other side. And so, yeah, to say anybody saw this coming, it is a bold faced lie.
yeah,
Like everybody thought it was just admirable that the Lions got their first win, supposed only win, and then they walk out there against the Cardinals.
yeah. I took them. I had this was one of my picks of the week, and just because I thought they just lost the week before, I thought this was a perfect bounce back game to I didn't really care about what the spread was. I thought they were just gonna go out there, kick their ass by big points. So I didn't really, and I usually don't like picking big spreads like that. Like I'm with you. Like I don't usually like picking the major big points. I don't like doing that. But in this case, I thought it was good. I thought they would kick their ass that by that much. But man, they just haven't been playing well. And that went the wrong way there.
Yeah, the one thing that would have scared me off with the Lions and a big spread is the fact that they've had so many close games that they did lose. You know,
Yeah.
that's where you start getting into talking about covering on the spread, and yeah, like so, it is like I said, nobody saw this coming. It was definitely a shocker. Jared Goff's probably happy to get that one under his cap with this. Uh, I'm sure the coach is probably happy to have some more kneecaps to gnaw on.
Yeah. Next up, we got the biggest cover against the spread, which is 49ers covered about, let's see, 9 points against the Falcons. They won 31-13. They were a -8.5 favorite. Yeah, they did care of the Falcons. Um, I didn't see I didn't bet that one. I kind of stayed away from that because I just didn't know how good the 49ers were, and the Falcons were playing at home. So I stayed away from that one. But what do you think, man?
I didn't see much on the game, but yeah, the Falcons have been a bad team. The 49ers have been hard to figure out. They seem I mean, I honestly don't know how to describe it because they seem to always have a run game figured out regardless of who's back there. They've had offensive weapons. They've found ways to use them, but they seem to not that consistently week to week. They don't do the same thing. Now, whether that's scheming, coaching, inconsistency in play, it's hard to say. But I will give you this. I take your biggest cover and I raise you Buffalo covering the 10.5 against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
because I was on that game last week with Buffalo, watching the
Mhm.
game. As a Panthers fan, of course, I'd prefer to have seen my team win. I'd have gladly been wrong in that situation. But late in the game, 2 minute going down to the 2 minute one, and I'm certain that they're gonna walk out there and just sit on the ball, roughly just outside the red zone. What does Sean McDermott and Josh Allen do? They call play action, throw the touchdown, run the score up, take that 10-point lead and run it up and cover the 10.5.
Yeah.
Buffalo wins. I win. Carolina didn't win, but hey, at least I could find something to be happy about in this game.
I get you, man. But okay, next up we got the bad beat of the week. And god damn it, well, this is a bad beat for me because I would have had a winning record on my bets if it wasn't for this game. I'm talking about Packers -4.5 at Ravens, and I got them pretty at a pretty low spread tier because I know this went up from this 4.5, but got it on early, and I think it bumped up because Lamar Jackson was out, and you saw the line shift a little more. Um, but yeah, I had it. I had it. They were up like by 2 touchdowns with like 9 minutes left, and they just let Tyler Huntley just drive down the field on them, score a touchdown, and you still feel safe. I still feel a little safe. There's only like 4 minutes left. They're up 7. They're covering the spread. But then they do it again. That bad Packers defense lets Tyler Huntley come back down the field. They almost get that 2 point conversion. They almost win, but man, that screwed up my picks. I end up with a losing week because of that game. But yeah, that was a pretty goddamn bad beat for me. What about you, man? What you think of this game?
Yeah, I feel you on that because I was right there with you with Green Bay. I didn't think, especially with Lamar being out, I didn't take the game in the segment I do on LBHT because they didn't even have lines up in a lot of places for
Mm.
that game just because of the Lamar Jackson news. And not knowing if he would start, because that's the type of player where you're talking about a game that might shift 3, 4, 5 points just based off news like him not playing. And so yeah, the fact that it turned out the way that it did was that it was definitely in that shocking range. But I was right there with you. I thought Green Bay would have covered whatever number they put out there, especially with Lamar not out on the field. And you watch it go down to a final play, a failed 2 point conversion.
Yeah. Which I wanted them to win just because I wanted the Cowboys to get the number one seed. So if I was gonna lose my bet, I was like hoping, okay, well, at least they're gonna lose, but no, they can't even do that. So I lost twice. So that sucked. But all right, I'm gonna get into recapping my own personal picks. Um, I went 2-3 last week. I had losing record, not good. My best pick was picking the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Tennessee Titans. Had them plus 1.5. They went outright. And then my worst pick was picking the Patriots +2 against the Colts. Yeah, the Colts just kicked their ass. I thought the Patriots were a better team um, than the Colts. I honestly thought the Patriots should be favored in that one. I was way off on that because Colts just dominated them. Wentz didn't do much, so he didn't really have a chance to make all of his mistakes that he usually does. It's just Jonathan Taylor just do everything on offense, which kept them from making those mistakes. So yeah, I lost some. That was a terrible pick on my part. But how'd you do, Derek?
Officially, I went 2-1 on the week. The initial pick I made on the Philly game ended up basically being a push because of the COVID and the rescheduling. And anybody that's ever done much baseball betting has gone through that, where something like a pitcher change might cancel out your bet or your play or a parlay or something. Uh, but I did find it ironic that the Philly game, the closing line was 10 points, and that game still finished as a push. Um, if the original 7.5, no, I had it at 7. If that had stood, that would have been a win on the week. Um, as far as bad beats on the week, I was on Tampa Bay against the Saints. I am not shocked that the Saints only scored 9 points. I am shocked that the Saints scored 9 points and somehow found a way to win the damn game. This is almost absurd. Like, when have you ever seen players drop like flies? Where's the sniper? Somebody was in the crowd with a weapon of some kind, because Tampa Bay was losing guys left and right. This is just, I mean, it's unheard of. I've seen a team lose players over the course of a season. I've never seen teams lose like 65, 70% of their offense over the course of a game.
Yeah, it's getting bad, man. With all these COVID cases getting out and all the injuries, like it's just like double the amount of people being out, just stacking on top of each other. And that's the thing that for this upcoming week, this is what I want to get to. The things to look out for is the most obvious thing to look out for, which is that COVID list. You have to keep an eye on the COVID list because that's going to shift the lines big time. I mean, it had a massive effect on the games last week, shifting the starters, shifting the games to when they were even played. And so you got to keep an eye on that. The lines makers are moving the betting lines like crazy, like more than other years, just because of who's on the COVID list. That if the quarterback is out, that's going to shift the line massively. So the most important thing to look out for this week is to keep an eye on that COVID list.
Oh, definitely.
But
The injury list is more important than ever. I mean, if you do much basketball, you got to keep an eye right before the games. Who's starting? Who's not? You got to have that final word. None of this doubtful, questionable. No, who's in, who's out. because if you don't stay on top of that with some of these games, especially with COVID and protocols, um, like you said, you might be looking at a game and wanting to take the favorite, and the team on the other side loses their quarterback to COVID, and that line is about to go from whatever you were looking at it to, it's going to move 3 points.
Yeah.
So if you wanted it at 6 points, you could have gotten it at 6 points, and then all of a sudden now it's at 9 points. So
Yeah.
if it's something you can get ahead and it not hurt you, it could, you can maybe even set up a middle where you got one team, you got the favorite at -5, -6, and then you were able to get the underdog at -10, -11, depending on how the COVID hit fell and who's not going to be available for a game.
Yeah. That happened last week. I mean, the Browns, lost the quarterback. They were the favorites, and they shifted all the way to being the underdogs. It was a massive swing. Just because both their quarterbacks
What
won the
was the
game.
closing line there?
I think it was Raiders -1. Uh,
I was curious if it happened to cover that final score, because but
no,
yeah,
I
that's
think
a
they still. Yeah, I think the Raiders still end up losing, then not covering, and the Browns still covered, even though being the underdog. But yeah, so just keep an eye on that, and we'll get into our picks now. I want to start with the Cleveland at Green Bay game. The Packers are the favorites, -7.5. Um, and I'm picking that. I'm picking the Packers. I'm laying the points here, and I'll tell you why. Because they're just way better than the Browns. Browns aren't very good. They're coming off that bad loss against the Raiders. Probably still have effects of COVID. I don't know even how many of their starters are coming back. Doesn't and honestly, I don't really care who's at quarterback for them because Baker mediocre. He's not that much better than what Nick Mullins did. Um, so I mean, they're just not comparable to the Packers. Packers are still one of the best teams against the spread at 11-3. And the Browns are terrible. They're just 1-5 in the last 1-4 in the last 5 games. So yeah, I'll say the Packers continue to roll, and they take this. I'll think they'll cover in this one. I know you had this game too, right?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the Packers. I think they'll cover. Even if we're talking about a fully healthy Browns team right now, the only way you see them going out and winning this game is pounding the rock with Chubb, running the ball. They haven't been able to move the ball through the air offensively, and the Green Bay defense can play well enough to where if they know you're going to come out there and run the ball, they may not be able to stop you, but they'll slow you down. And they have the type of offense where if you can't keep up, if you can't keep the ball out of their hands, and you want to try and run the ball in a smash and a ground and pound style offense, you got to be able to convert consistently over and over again. And if you can't do that, Green Bay is going to come out there. They aren't necessarily going to put up touchdowns every time, but they're going to move the ball. They're going to get points. They're going to put up 7 points at the minimum in a quarter. More likely, you're going to see 6, 7 points out of a quarter out of Green Bay, if not closer to 10. It's hard to keep up with a team like that. Yes, if you can slow down their offense, you can beat them, but you got to be able to put up, somewhere 25, 30 points yourself. And if you can't do that, it's unlikely. Now if the Browns go out there and time of possession and ball control and can pound away with Chubb in the backfield, yeah, it's possible, but I don't see it happening. I see Green Bay probably winning this game somewhere around 10, 11, 12 points. And yeah, covering the 7.5.
Yep. All right. I got my next pick here. The Colts at Arizona. There wasn't really, at least I use Caesar Sportsbook for the Lions. They didn't really they had them as a pick 'em. So I'll just take the Colts on the money line. It's pretty much even odds here, minus 110 for both. So I think the Colts will win because they won 5 of the last 6 games, um, just straight up. Um, I think Arizona is trending downward. They lost the last 2 games, and that's including their bad loss against the Lions, just getting their ass kicked. And I feel like this is just kind of what they've been with Cliff Kingsbury. It's kind of just fall off at the end of the season. And I just don't think it'll stop here. Like I think it will continue. They'll keep trending downward as the Colts keep trending upward. I mean, they just stomped on the Patriots. I think they're looking really good. They'll ride the game out on back of Jonathan Taylor. And yeah, the Colts are really good straight up. They're 5-1 last 6 games, 4-2 straight up in last 6 games against the Cardinals. And yeah, the Colts defense playing really well. They've held 4 of the last 5 opponents under 20 points, and seeing how Kyler Murray is playing, and how their offense is struggling as a whole. Yeah, I feel the Colts will just win the game. Did you have this game?
I wasn't on this game specifically, but something that came to mind. You referenced them losing to Detroit, and I can't recall specifically off the top of my head, but I don't recall them coming out and doing well the week after they lost to Carolina. That seemed like a good sort of representation because they were not expected to lose that game. They were expected, to get a win, even though they didn't have Murray and Hopkins out there. And you didn't see a team that came out the following week and said, no, we're a different team than what you saw. And so the fact that they lost to Detroit, I would not be shocked at all if there wasn't, this bounce back. In some situations, you can take sort of that zigzag approach. Good team lost to a bad team in a, sort of bad beat situation. Come back the next week, just stomp whoever they're playing. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that'll happen. I think if the Colts get behind, then yes, it could be a situation where they're not able to catch up because they won't be able to utilize that ball control and just try and grind away with a Jonathan Taylor. Um, but at the same time, there's been some inconsistency out of the Arizona offense, and like I was just saying about the Browns, if Green Bay has a consistent offense, they can move the ball. If Arizona can't come out and move the ball and they're giving the ball right back, it plays back into that ground control, pound the rock, control the clock, bleed things down, get a lead, hold on to it, play that defensive field position game. So I think if the Colts get ahead and can utilize and play to their strengths, then yes, they'll eat. It being a pick 'em, I'm not surprised. This seems, like you said, Arizona's trending downward. You got a hot team with the Colts. I'm always a fan of going with a hot team because there's that momentum and energy. It's hard to generate. You don't have to be the best team in the world, but
Yeah,
if you're 5-5 in the past 5 weeks, everything you're doing feels right. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how you made the play. It could have been the luckiest play in the world. And, no, that was skill. That was all me. It's that type of mentality. And so you got a hot team. Sometimes that's just what you got to ride.
yeah, yeah. All right, man. The next pick I got is Los Angeles Chargers minus 10 at Houston. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm laying the points because I just think they're way better. I mean, the Texans are awful. I mean, when they're not playing the Jaguars, they're averaging a score of 28-12 in 12 games. The Chargers are averaging 32 points in the last 5 games. So yeah, I don't think the Texans defense will be able to stop them. I think they're going to run it up on them. And Houston's awful against the spread. They're 4-8 in the last 12 games, and the Chargers are pretty damn good against the spread. 6-1 in the last 7 matchups against the Texans. So yeah, I like the Chargers in this one. You have this one.
I did not. I was not on this game, but I'm right there with you as far as the Chargers because I don't recall if I was no, I wasn't on them last week, but I the Chargers shouldn't have lost that game against
Yeah,
KC. A lot of people wanted to give KC praise for what they did, and yes, I'm not, you know, trying to dismiss that. They took advantage of a great opportunity, and by that I mean they had a team that turned the ball over 5 times or 3 times inside the 10-yard line in the red zone, didn't come away with points, and KC barely pushed it to overtime and had the ball and scored a final touchdown.
yeah. They
You
should have
know,
won.
yes,
They should
like
have won.
they earned that victory. I'm not, dismissing that, but people have wanted to say KC was back. Well, KC beat up on the Raiders. We just saw the Raiders barely beat the Browns, and nobody has high expectations or hopes for the Browns. This was a Browns team led by Nick Mullins, no wide receivers, riddled with COVID absences, no coaching staff, and the Raiders put up 16 points.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, the Raiders put up about the same amount of points against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Browns are not the Kansas City Chiefs. So to say that the Chiefs were back because they went out and stomped the Raiders, not trying to disrespect the Raiders, but Kansas City came out, got very lucky. They were lucky they weren't down like 21-6, 21-10, or very early on. The way that game was going, that score should have ended up being something like 35, 40, 42 points for the Chargers, if not more. So yeah, the Chargers are another one of those hot teams. They got a
yeah,
hot, strong offense. They're not playing bad football, so I definitely can get behind somebody like the Chargers.
yeah. So yeah, I got my next team, Minnesota Vikings +3 against the Rams. They're playing at home, and I like this home underdog. Because I think they're the most capable underdog here. I always try to target that every week. I try to find what is the most capable home underdog, and I pick it. Um, but I think they're most capable because the Vikings always keep it close, no matter who they play. No matter if they play the bad teams, good teams, it don't matter. They're gonna keep it close. So I like them getting points here. I'm not really that big of a believer in the Rams. Um, Matt Stafford just seems to just chuck it up to Cooper Cup, and Cooper Cup's been great, but I'm just not going to be a believer in him. Um, so even if they do win, I still think the Vikings cover. It might be just by 1 or 2 points. And the Vikings are pretty good against spread recently, 5-2 in the last 7. Rams are 0-5-1 in the last 6 against Minnesota. So I'll go with trends, and I'll take the Vikings here. Do you have this one?
Oh no, again, I wasn't on this one, but like
Okay.
you said, you're talking about a downward trending team. The Rams have not had stuff figured out for the past few weeks. Yeah, it's one of those strange instances where Cooper Cup's getting his. He's going off, like he's out here setting records, and at the same time, the whole team seems to be struggling, which is just severely odd to say the least, in my opinion. Uh, like oh, who can yeah, a certain team came to mind. Uh, well, kind of what I was saying about Kansas City, where you saw, not necessarily that they're losing players or things like that, but just something seems to be off, and you can't nobody seem to figure out what exactly that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't trust them. So, uh, like the Vikings, I do trust the Vikings in keeping it close. That's why I'll trust them. All right. My last pick is like taking my Cowboys -11 against the Washington football team. We're at home, and I'm taking the Cowboys because we're just way better than them. Uh, we are great against the spread. We're 11-3, which is pretty much tied for the top spot. 9-0 against NFC teams. Um, and yeah, we're playing a little better on offense than we were in that game. Dak's getting it back together, I think. We were blowing them out too. The only reason why it was a little close It's because Dak threw a bad pick six. Other than that, we would have, blown them out. And I think we can do that again. Our defense is playing awesome right now. And Washington football team was one of the teams that got affected by COVID last week. So they're having trouble figuring out who the hell their starter is. And if they having struggles on offense, then that's not going to be good sign for them against our defense. So I don't think they're going to score many points. So I think we can cover the -11 pretty easily, honestly. What about you, man? Yeah, you have
Yeah,
any thoughts on the
I'm
game?
right. Yeah, I'm right there with you on
Yeah.
this one. I had this game as well.
All right.
Now I do believe that whatever you said, 8-0, 9-0 against the NFC, you can throw that out the window because half that's against the NFC East. So you could really make that like 4-0 or 5-0. Just saying. But yeah, I do think they're gonna come in and lay down a bit of a whooping.
I
Uh,
mean, it's against the spread too. Just, I mean, that's
yeah.
not just beating them.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not sure who Washington has to come in at the quarterback position. I forgot the name. Yeah, I know it's something Gilbert. The name slips me.
Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, see who? That's better off just going with that. Who? That's the quarterback. Because you're gonna tell somebody, oh, such and such is starting for Washington. Who? Yeah, that person right there. Um, but yeah, I think it's gonna. Washington might put forth a solid game, but I don't see them putting up much points. I think this
Mhm.
is a game where you can come in and try and target something like a team point total under. Uh,
And I do have that. That was going to be one of my unders. I do have uh, Dallas Washington game under 47. Because unders hit about 7 out of the 8 times last 8 games. Just because our offense hasn't been playing well, and I think our offense will play better. But honestly, I think we'll be beating them so bad that we don't really have to score that many points after a while, and they won't be able to score at all. So I'll
well,
definitely
yeah,
take the
see,
under on this one.
you get into an interesting scenario where if you put up 24, 28 points and the other team doesn't put up more than 10 points, there's still only 38 points on the day.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, some totals it takes a back and forth. Like some numbers. That's where you get into. You have to handicap the game for yourself. You have to sit down and talk it out, think it out, how you think this game is going to go. Me personally, yeah, I think it's going to be a blowout. I think they're going to cover the spread. Does that mean always translate to an over? No, because
no,
yes, now it is a more common thing to say that the over will hit on a game total, uh, covering the spread and even a larger spread. But in this instance, we're talking about potentially covering the spread, looking at a under on the game total, fits right in line with under on the Washington team point total, and so you have a lot of correlated movement. And so these are the types of things you look at where if you're more comfortable with one number versus another because you feel you know it better, that's what you go with. But if you see something like a game total that seems a little off to you, but you don't necessarily play totals, you maybe don't necessarily want that number, go in and look at a couple things because you might see a team. There's been a few times this year where I took a 16 and a half, 17 and a half point total and took the under, and more times than not I've hit this season, and it wasn't much more than a bad team going out there with a bad offense.
yeah. All right, man. You can go ahead with the rest of your picks.
Yeah, a couple other games I had this week. I'm gonna be on the Miami Dolphins. They're plus 3 points. I don't know how this is possible. I don't know what happened. I mean, I was looking, I didn't see anything that stood out that said they should be underdogs in this game. They're on
Mm-hmm.
a massive win streak. They've ran through a number of different teams and in statement fashion. We're not talking about, oh, they squeaked out a win. We're talking about they're going in winning decisively. Even if the game ends up being close, it's not, oh, they were able to steal a win. No, that was their win. Uh, the Saints only put up 9 points. 9 points. How is this team a favorite? At all. At all. They have a quarterback with a broken finger on his throwing hand. How is this team a favorite? Give me Miami +3. You talking about a hot team on a winning streak, late in the season, playoff potential, like give me Miami +3. And I kind of hate saying that, seeing as how before the season I took Miami under 9.5 wins on the season. I still got a little wiggle room there. So let's go Miami this week and I can fade y'all the rest of the season. But yeah, Miami +3 is where I'm going to be at in that
I agree
game.
with you on that one, man. That was one of the picks I was debating on. Just felt good about the other ones more than that one.
Yeah. Another game I'll be on this week. Carolina and Tampa. I'm going with Tampa -10. That game I just referenced. New Orleans putting up 9 points, still walking away with the victory in the shutout against Tampa. Brady's going to come out. Bruce Arians is going to come out. Those egos are going to be bruised. This is a whooping that I am not prepared to be present for. I will be there in person. I will see this visually with my own eyes. I feel like it's going to hurt. Brady's never beaten Cam Newton head to head in his career. He has a chance. Brady has a chance to do something he's never done before, y'all. Think about that. Brady, the man with all sorts of titles, the man with, umpteen million rings and records and everything. This man has a chance to go out there Sunday and do something that he hasn't done before. I'm pretty sure this man is motivated about that. And if you tell me that he doesn't know that he's never beat Cam Newton, that's a bold faced lie. Uh, Michael Jordan is on record in his Hall of Fame speech, I believe, referencing that he was still jaded over the fact that he was not picked to be, Mr. Basketball North Carolina. In his Hall of Fame speech, he was still jaded over that. The type of players that end up being the greatest of all times, whether you like them or not, that's the type of stuff they hold on to. They might be a great person, they might be a horrible person, but that's the type of stuff they hold on to. So you give somebody like Brady the chance to do something he's never done before. Oh yeah, Brady ain't got no weapons. Brady ain't got nobody to throw the ball to. Brady got a chance to go out there and do something he ain't never done before. I ain't betting against Brady. Give me the -10.
I
Then
get you, man, but I got to stay away from it. I have to see him how well he does without his weapons. That's why I couldn't bet that one.
I'm right there with you. I'm not a fan of the big spreads, but it's just that's one thing that stood out to me. But also the Carolina offense, can they put up points? That's the question there. That's been the question the whole season, regardless what personnel is out there. The L, regardless what coaching staff is out there. Apparently, I do like more so what we've seen out of Jeff Nixon and these past couple of games, but it has not been enough. So yeah, I'm on the favorites minus the points there. Um, let's see, and then I'll be on the Baltimore game this week versus Cincinnati. I have certain feelings that the weather, being it's December, it's in Cincinnati, open cold weather, broken bones do not fare well in conditions like that. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to sideline Burrow, but I don't think their offense did much last week, and I think that was partially why. I do not think he's going to be able to be the same player. It being on his throwing hand, it's going to affect him to some degree. Even if it just causes him to think a little more. You slow down a player's thought process by a split second, you make them think an extra step. And that can be the difference between a sack, an interception, any number of different things. It can be the beginning of a chain reaction that leads to a turnover. It can be, hell, it starts leading into a developing habit, and third quarter in the game, ends up what started out as just a split second. Now it's, 2, 3, 4 split seconds put together. And, you losing a second, any sort of number of things. And I like what I saw out of Huntley. I do remember there was a lot of praise behind Huntley when he left Green Bay. Um, I don't think it's any mistake that he targeted Baltimore. You got to think when he went there. Uh, I forget what the circumstances were. Maybe if it was just a lot of preseason footage, but his name, there was a lot of buzz around his name. It's no coincidence that he went and signed with a team that had just brought in a rookie quarterback that they drafted to start and things like that. That was a calculated move. Now, of course, you can't predict who's going to end up necessarily turning into an all-star or anything like that. But these past couple weeks, I've liked what I've seen out of Huntley. Um, he's not making a lot of bad decisions. I don't think he's going out there trying to be Lamar, though I do think their styles are very similar, and maybe you've seen a little bit of coaching rub off from Lamar. Uh, but yeah, he's gone out there, played fairly well, played fairly clean, um, shown that dual threat presence where even if he's not trying to run downfield, he's avoiding sacks and avoiding people in the backfield. And you got to be able to do that with the offensive line that's in Baltimore right now. Um, and I'm gonna be on Baltimore in this game +3. We might, like I said, I like what I saw out of Huntley, and that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is Lamar Jackson's out there Sunday, and I'm getting +3 points against Cincinnati. I'll take that all day long.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't take that one. I thought that divisional rivalry right there is too close to call. Um, so yeah, I just stayed away from. I didn't even debate that one. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what the Ravens are doing. I don't know what the Bengals are doing. They're kind of both up and down. I can't bet it. It's too much unknowns for me. But yeah. So that's all. That's all your picks, right?
Yeah, that's my picks for the week. We're both on the Dallas and Green Bay games.
Yeah. We both had both had those two games. So maybe that tells you something. But yeah, so I got a few over and unders to go over. Like I said, already said the Dallas under 47. I also have Rams and Vikings under 49. The reason I have that just because I think it's a pretty high number. I think 49 is pretty high. I think it more defensive struggle there. Just because just like I said, I don't believe in Matt Stafford and I don't believe in Kirk Cousins. And it may look like it's going to be high scoring, but every time it kind of looks like it's going to be high scoring, it kind of like fails and it's under. So that was kind of my thoughts on that game. Um, I also had the Chargers game hitting the over 45. Yes, last 4 to 5 games, the Chargers been hitting the overs. That's due to just how good their offense is doing right now. Just Herbert seems to be rolling right now.
I feel
They,
sorry for anybody last week that made any sort of live bet unders on the KC Chargers game because going into the fourth quarter, the game's sitting at like what 20, 23,
mhm,
26. I mean, and then they explode for what was it 28, 29 points in the fourth quarter.
yeah,
Like I know there's people out there, the overbetters like, oh, they ripped up their tickets, sitting there watching the TV like, oh, the sweet Jesus, thank God. But I mean, that had to be sick because that's it was just ugly the whole way, and then something happened in the fourth quarter. I guess somebody found the secret sauce, and both sides just exploded.
yeah. So that yeah, because I think like I said, I think the Chargers have a big explosive offense. That's why I like the overs. Pretty much, I'll take the Chargers over for the rest of the season because I think They'll just score a whole bunch of points.
And that's not a
Um,
bad way to go. I mean, honestly, because that's something I've touched on when I've picked them this season is, they've had an explosive offense. And it seems like the only thing that might slow them down is turnovers. And for the most part, they keep that well under control. And even when they do have turnovers, they can still produce.
you know. And my next one, I got the Colts Cardinals game under 4.9. I just think that's too high for that game, especially with how bad Kyler's looking right now, with how their overall offense is looking. I just can't see them scoring a lot of points. The Colts defense is pretty damn good. Um, and then yeah, I mean, Colts are just gonna play time of possession. They're just gonna run the ball, try to control the clock, and that doesn't really produce a lot of points. So I don't think either one is gonna score that many. So I think that's pretty. I think that's honestly pretty easy under right there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like we touched on talking about the game, that run game could easily be a significant part of how things play out. And that style of football is under style of football. Um, so yeah, it's easy to think that a run heavy game is going to end up being on, landing towards the under.
Yeah, and my last one I got Lions Falcons. I think there's gonna be a few points scored. I'll take the over 42. I think that's low enough for this game. Um, Lions they played well last week. They put up some points. I don't think they really have a great defense, so I think the Falcons can get something in this game. I mean, they're capable of it. They're capable of scoring. They don't do it very often, but they still have Ryan. They still have Kyle Pitts. They still have something for them. So I'll take the over in that one. I think they're going to go back and forth in this one.
Yeah, the Lions, they have been fighters all season long. They may have not been getting W's, but they have been chewing on kneecaps along the way. Um, I definitely see them, like you said, not much on the defensive side, but they've been able to stick with teams. A game like this, two bad teams, two bad defenses, you could easily get a 24-20 game. What'd you say that total was? 42?
42.
Yeah, 24-20 over. 24-21 over. You know, this could be a sub 30 game on both sides. Easily hit the over. This could turn into a blowout and still hit the over. 33-9, that's a push. Like, so, that's one of those things where when you start talking it out, how do you see this game ending up at this total? You know, you either see a field goal game, and short of you seeing it being like 17-14, 17-10, 20-17, it's looking like this game's going to be over.
Yeah, that's why I like it. All right, man. Unless you got any other picks.
No, not at the moment. In the future, I might look into not necessarily some props, but some different angles with some teams. I do tend to lean towards some of the team point totals. Those come out a little later in the week as you get closer to Sunday. Uh, but something like that, it gives you time to sort of evaluate things, look at things, see how some of the public and some of the numbers are being perceived. It just really gives you a chance to get your ducks in a row. Sometimes, you might wake up, Sunday morning and, I was thinking about this, but, let me go ahead and do it. Something feels right. And so, yeah, like I said, I tend to lean towards, some of the point totals, team point totals, game totals. Traditionally, I'm a bit of an under better. Um, which isn't always the sexiest of things, and maybe that's why it appeals to me. Like I said earlier, there's been a number of times this year. Chicago was one team I was on where even if I didn't take it that week, there was most weeks where take the under because even if it says 17 and a half, they're not getting 17. And they didn't. They wouldn't. You'd see 16, 14, 10, so on. You know,
Mhm.
like if they happen to hit, I'll gladly take the odds in my favor. If it's hitting 2 out of 3 times, I'll gladly take that. I don't mind losing that from time to time if I know I'm gonna hit 2 out of 3.
All right, man. I think that's the show. So tell the people where they can find you.
All right, you can find me at DWeatherly90 on Twitter. You can also find me every Wednesday night. I do a segment on the LBHT show here on YouTube. They start up at 7:15. I do the lunch money bet segment where I break down, 5 picks on the week. You can come through with a couple questions and info. Um, you can hit me up on Twitter. Yeah, I do weekly articles on the Panthers for the LBHT show website. That's another thing. I'm big into the Panthers. If you got a question about the Panthers, something about them, come get at me. I had a few people that, Joe Brady was fired. I was their first thought because that is something I've been on this season was the coaching staff and the lack of adjustments and things like that. Um, so yeah, feel free, reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat it up, whether it be, you know, basketball, football, sports in general, betting odds, angles. Yeah, I'm happy to chat it up.
All right. Yeah, go check out all his stuff. You can find me at NFL Caleb 22 on Twitter and pretty much all the rest of social medias. You can find my betting articles on let'sgetreadynetwork.com. And yeah, all the links are down below. Yeah, thanks for watching and like and subscribe. And I'll see you next week.